Hi, and welcome to the Art of Unraveling podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, welcome to the YouTube channel. My name is Erin McGuire. I'm an intuitive channel, somatic coach, and healer. And today I wanted to talk about something that is really important to me. And that is, why do we play small in life? Why do we dim our light? If you have been in my world, you know that I talk about being a light worker and an empath and a highly sensitive person, and I tend to attract those kinds of people as well. Not to say everybody's a light worker, everybody's an empath, but the more sensitive folk. At the very least, I attract people that share a similar story to me. Especially on YouTube, a lot of you have seen my videos on growing up with a narcissist. And I've received a lot of messages from people about those videos and that they've held conversation a little bit deeper. Because first of all, when it comes to playing small, this isn't something we consciously choose, right? Nobody chooses to play small. And what does that even mean? It means a lot of different things, but essentially, it's I'm going to dim myself a little bit or a lot to appease in a way the people around me. It's I'm going to be less of who I am, less authentically me, and more of what I feel like the people around me need or want me to be. And why do we do that? Again, it's not a conscious choice. Nobody chooses to play small in their life. We do this because something got wired, most likely in childhood, but yes, things can happen to us when we're adults that can shift the course of how we show up in the world. But certainly, what I'm really speaking to today is those of us that struggled in childhood, had parents that, at the very least, just didn't know how to give us what we need as sensitive humans, right? Or at the worst, we're actually abusive, neglectful, emotionally abusive. Which, just a short caveat there, emotional abuse is something I don't think our society is still open to making us aware of, open to accepting. And some have argued, and I've read different books that have said emotional abuse is actually almost more severe. I don't want to, we're not comparing it to physical abuse here, but in the way that you can't see emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is what happens, for me, it's like my friends would come over, and when my friends were over, everything was fine. And in fact, a lot of my friends loved my mom and said, "Oh, she's so nice, she's so cool." And then the second they would leave and that door would close, the real mom came out. And one time, my friend Nicole happened to witness that. My mom wasn't as keenly aware as she normally was when everybody was gone. And the screaming and the yelling started. And my friend witnessed that. And she's like, "I'm so sorry. I didn't." It's not that she didn't believe me, but I would tell people different things that were happening, and it's just like their brains couldn't compute because they never witnessed it. So it's not, she never said, "I don't believe that that's happening," but it was just kind of like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And we just kind of would go on about our day after I would share something. And I just remember her being like, I'm really sorry. I get it now." Because people don't get that. If you were so lucky that you didn't grow up with that, that is very hard to fathom, especially when that parent maybe showed themselves to you in a completely different light. And I think this is the silent disease. It's a silent disease because our society doesn't talk about it, because emotional abuse isn't seen. There's no wounds physically, and yet the wounds are so deep. They run so freaking deep. And they're so multifaceted because it's like you pull one string and then like 500 other strings start unraveling, right? So it has been argued in different books I've read that emotional abuse is actually the worst, and emotional abuse often happens on a daily basis, and it's abuse. And when I work with people, I'm never here to um, make anybody feel like they had a bad childhood. I'm simply here to help people understand that if you are struggling in some area in your life right now, as an adult watching this video or listening to this podcast, if you are struggling in some area of your life, maybe it's with anxiety or depression or just this constant issue with finances or issues in relationships, or you feel, or some chronic health issue, most likely there is a connection to something that's happened to you in the past that hasn't been resolved. And so a lot of times people will tell me, Erin, they'll hear my story and they'll say, "Oh, I didn't have childhood trauma. Like that wasn't a part of my experience. But my dad was really stern." Is an example. This Somebody said this to me recently, and I'm like, "Cool. I'm not here to tell you that your parents were bad. I'm just here to reflect, is a stern father what a highly sensitive little girl needed all the time?" Probably not. There were probably moments where that was really scary. So even though it can look good and like maybe you have a great relationship with your parents, and I'm so happy for you if that is you. I know a lot of us here don't have that experience, unfortunately. And but I'm speaking at this in this exact moment to those people. It's like to just ask yourself, is it possible that there was a need that I had in childhood that I didn't get? Is it possible, let's use the example of the stern dad. Is it possible that, my dad being really stern, although helped me in XYZ areas, is it possible that I needed him to be more nurturing or to give me a hug or to be less hard on me as a child? Just is it possible? And to not that we need to go back and talk to our parents and tell them all the ways they messed up. That's not what I'm saying here, especially if you do have a good relationship with our parents. I think everything happens as it's supposed to happen, not trauma. Was trauma supposed to happen? I don't believe that. But I will tell you that the trauma that I've been through, I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you if it hadn't happened to me. So, did I deserve it? Hell no. Would I wish it on anybody? Absolutely not. But anyway, that's going down a whole other conversation that I'm trying to stay on topic here. But I think it's kind of society, it's okay to acknowledge that you didn't get everything that you needed as a child. And in fact, the sooner you're able to do that, if you're struggling with something in your now experience, the sooner that you're able to do that, the quicker you're going to be able to shift, because denial keeps us stuck. Denial keeps us living in the shadow, living in the dark. So the sooner we can just say, yeah, like my parents did the best they could, blah, 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 but I didn't get everything that I needed. And then start learning how to give those things to yourself. That's reparenting. That's reparenting yourself in the ways that you need now. So that's the conversation for those of us that, because I hear that from so many people. But I'm going to now switch over to those of us that have had trauma and do acknowledge that and do understand the implications of that. And one of those is when we grow up with a lot of discord in our lives, we shut down who we are. It's a way to stay safe. So, for example, in my case, I can remember being a little girl, and I wouldn't put these words to it because I didn't understand what was happening. I just I didn't feel definitely didn't feel the warm and fuzzies from my mother. Uh, um, there was always a knowing that she loved me, but it felt off. And, even as kids, even though people say, "Oh, kids don't really know what's going on," kids know what's going on. And, although I didn't know how to name what I was feeling, as I got older, I realized my mom has always been jealous of me. And I don't know if that is because I've always had a very close relationship with her mother, that maybe she didn't get the experience to have because she had 4 younger brothers, one right after the other, and she was the oldest. So, and my grandma was basically at home raising 5 kids by herself while my grandpa worked and he drove trucks, so he was not home ever. So you can imagine there probably wasn't a lot of attention going around, especially if you're the oldest child. So I can look at it from that perspective, but it still doesn't change how she made me feel growing up, this jealousy. And so imagine you're this child who's sensitive and intuitive and can feel this weird energy, can't put words to it, but just didn't feel like I could fully be me, right? So, and imagine you have a bright light because all of us do, right? We've all got these bright lights, but that I had to dim that light. I had to shut that down because literally my biology is telling me, I'm not choosing any of this. My biology is telling me this is not safe. Play smaller. Don't be so big. Play smaller to stay safe. And so, of course, didn't choose that, didn't think about that, didn't consciously decide. But as I grew up and became an adult, and certainly when I started running my own business, where I need to be out in the world and talking to people and, you know, being on social media and saying things, certainly then the playing small issue came to light. And for years, it's like I couldn't really say what I wanted to say, or I would be talking on a live or talking on, social media, and I could feel it was like some part of me was, like, pulling me back a little bit, like, just censoring myself. I probably still do that, and I still have to catch it and make sure I'm saying the thing. It's like I don't wanna offend people, I wanna just for me, growing up with a narcissist who yelled a lot, it's like I had such a strong fear of getting into trouble. And I know other people feel what I'm talking about here today because I've heard your messages on TikTok. On TikTok, there's a lot more activity over there, and people tell me, "Oh my gosh, yes, the getting into trouble thing, the jealousy thing." So, I just want you to take a moment and to think about, like, where in my life am I playing small? Where have I been holding myself back? Maybe you've always seen bigger for yourself, or you've seen yourself doing something, or you've been wanting to start a podcast. Or I remember too, if you go back on my YouTube channel to the very first video I ever made, it was about perfectionism. And it's because for 2 or 3 or 4, I don't even know how many years before I started my YouTube channel, I wanted to, but I was afraid. And I let perfectionism as a way perfectionism comes in, and it's a way to monitor things so that you can play small, right? If perfectionism comes in, it says, well, I can't start the thing until I get the right equipment, until I've taken all the classes, until I've read all the books, until I have all the information, until I have 6 videos ready to go. until I have 8 podcasts lined up, until I have all the spreadsheets, until I've done all the tax things, until I could keep going. The laundry list could be very long of the things we need to do before we do the thing our heart has been telling us to do. Same thing goes with my book. I have been talking about writing a book for years. I was 21 years old when I said, I want to write a book. I was inspired by this artist who had used her art. I'm not an artist, but she had used her art with her journal entries, and it was just this beautiful piece of work. And I was so inspired, and I'm like, I'm going to write a book. And then I even like took different periods of time off in my life and started writing the book. And then I would throw that book away and I'd start over. And then I'd throw that book away and then I'd start over. And finally, I'm at the place, but still my brain comes in and says, eh, hasn't all this been said before? Like, what do you have to say? Right? The dampening thoughts come in to to scare us, to be like, no, you don't really want to do this. You have all these other things to do first, or maybe you should, like, right now my brain is like, it's my book is with my editor, but right now the brain is like, oh, but you should talk about this and you didn't do that, and like, what about this? And it's trying to come up with a laundry list more of things, even though there's so much content already in the book. It's trying to come up with a bunch more things because maybe it's just not good enough yet, right? Another way we can play small, another way we can stop ourselves with perfectionism, with the voice in the head that says, it's just not good enough yet. And so it's not our parents' fault. We can't blame. If we stay in the blame game, we stay victim and we stay away from our own power. As long as I'm like, yeah, it's my mom's fault that this is happening. It's my mom's fault that I still haven't written my book and become an author and done all the things that I see for myself. It's her fault, right? Do you see how powerless and helpless that feels? There's no energy there. Or, for the person that wants to start the podcast or the YouTube channel, and it's just like, yeah, well, I don't have the resources, or I don't have the right video recorder, or whatever. It's like we get to stay small, and it's because of XYZ. We can find things to blame, we can find people to blame. And as long as I'm blaming, I'm staying more small. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's another way the ego uses the excuses to keep you where you are, to keep you safe, because it thinks here is safe. Putting yourself out there is not safe to the ego, to the nervous system, even to the biology, because it wasn't safe as a child. Damn, you have to be smaller to stay safe. Don't be too big. The person that is supposed to care for you is jealous of you. So don't be too big so that she can feel bigger, better about herself. It's such a dangerous game, that and a silent disease, because every time I don't do the thing that I feel in my heart to do, there's this guilt, there's this disconnection, there's this distrust of myself, and that gap just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and the contraction within the body gets tighter, and the tension starts to build, and then some sort of health issue can happen. Like for me, it was chronic fatigue, hypothyroidism. I truly believe Hypothyroidism is not expressing who you are. The thyroid is at our throat. Also, it's in the shape of a butterfly. Metaphorically speaking, I mean, could we get any more of a metaphor there? When I'm holding back who I am, when I'm denying who I am, I'm not free. And the body keeps the score. The issues are held in the tissues. The constriction of holding back who you are your whole life, even though you're unconscious of it, the body knows. Even if you can't remember, I don't remember all the things that happened to me as a kid. In fact, a lot of my childhood is a complete blank, which is very common for people that grew up in trauma filled households. But my body remembers everything. So the question then becomes, what are we going to do to take the step forward? And are all the things that perfectionism is telling me I need to do before I do the thing, are those things even necessary? Probably not. Yeah, probably like even, I had my podcast going for years and then I took time away because I was writing my book and dealing with some health challenges last year, moving across the country. And now I'm getting back into it, but it's like every week I'm like, oh, I got to do that. I got to do that. I got to do that. And it's like this pressure. Another way we can stop ourselves is the pressure we put on. So, what are we willing to do to stop playing small? And maybe you don't have this thing that you want to start, but you're like, I've been playing small in my life. Like, I've not been my authentic self. I've been the one that's been appeasing everybody else around me, people pleasing everybody else around me, and I'm exhausted. That's the same disease of that's not who I really am. That's a program that got wired as a child to stay safe, but it's not your authentic self. So it's time to take back your power. If you're blaming anybody for these issues, it's time to stop because the victim mode will keep you in the vicious cycle. It doesn't mean we can't do our work around the people that have harmed us in some way, but we have to get out of the blame game in order to get our power back. When I take responsibility for my life moving forward, I fully access my power. When I'm like, well, it's all these other reasons why I can't do what I want to do, and it's pretty much my mom's fault, power gone. So, taking back our power by saying, from this moment forward, I am taking responsibility to change this. It's not my fault that this happened. It's not my fault that I have these things to unravel, but it's my responsibility moving forward. And I call all of my power back to me from all time and space. I call back all soul fragments where I've split off parts of my soul to appease the people around me or to be somebody else's everything. Meanwhile, I'm bleeding out, exhausted. I call all of my power back to me now and I move forward. So take some time this week to journal about what's the thing you're stepping into. And just see when you write that down, like, this is what I want. This is what I want in my life, whether it's a health thing, a financial thing, a business thing or a creative project. This is what I want. And then what am I telling myself about this thing? What am I saying about this thing? And write those things down. Whatever the brain is telling you, it's too hard. We have all these steps we have to do. And then whatever that is, whatever you write under what's my brain telling me about this project, go through and check if any of those things are true. Do you really need all of those steps? Or is that just something that you heard somebody say that they did? And so that's what you think you need to do. Go through and check all of that. And then just decide what's one small step I can take forward into this future self me that isn't playing small anymore. Because we're here to rise into our greatness. We're here to do the things that are on our heart for whatever reason. So I hope this little talk was helpful for you. This is something that's been coming up a lot. If you are somebody that likes a little more support with things, I do have a workshop coming up called Reclaim Your Magic that's all about how to stop playing small. We'll be going through my 5-step process, proven process. I use this for anything, but in this case, we'll be using it for our to stop playing small. We'll be going through these different layers, the subconscious layer, the nervous system layer, and releasing the chains that are holding us in place and making us play small. I also have a new live group coaching program coming out called Aligned. It's going to be done a little bit differently this time. And it is full of amazing things. I'll be telling you more about that soon, but those are a couple ways. And I also do one-on-one work with people. So if you just want more support in, like, you're just really ready to be done with the chains holding you back, and this is the year, 2025 is the year for you, then shoot me a message. I would love to support you on your journey to rising really into your highest and greatest evolution, because that's what we're here to do. And everybody's is different. No two people's highest evolution is the same. We were all given codes to step into what we are meant to do, just like there are different trees and different flowers, they have the codes within them. Or the butterfly example, right? The caterpillar has the codes within it that when the time is right, it goes into the cocoon. It crystallizes all of its parts, get into gooey, weird little, chrysalis. And it completely, like, its body completely transforms when it's in that chrysalis. And then when the time is right, the codes are given. The codes are already within the caterpillar. When the time is right, it knows when it's time to come out of the cocoon and step into the butterfly. And so that's what we're doing here. The chrysalis going into the cocoon is having to unravel the parts that got raveled up as children. And that doesn't have to take forever. It doesn't have to take long, but it does need mending. It does need some reparenting. It does need some healing. So that is my work. That's the work I do with people. That's the work we will be doing in Aligned. And that is what my book will be about when it's ready to be in its butterfly form out in the universe, which will be hopefully within the next few months. So I thank you for listening today. Please shoot me a message if any of this landed. If you want my workshop, Reclaim Your Magic, please let me know, and I hope to see you again really soon.